Robert Rice, founder and CEO of Transmira Incorporated. We wanted to build a metaverse that's global in nature, but something that's useful and important enough to sustain itself for the long term, but be designed in such a way where it's not just about fun or entertainment or social, but done in a way where we can really impact people's lives and change how we view who we are, where we are, and what we do, where we live, who lives around us, and how we kind of interact and interface with data in such a way where we can improve people's lives, give new economic chances, and really try to bring out the full value and potential of what the metaverse could be or should be. First part of the way we've developed our platform is it's half augmented reality and half virtual reality. So on the augmented reality side, that's really having 3D content interactions kind of in the real world around you, kind of like Pokemon Go to some degree. And then on the 3D VR side of the fence, that's where we start getting into the 3D worlds. And part of those are going to be our city-scale digital twins, where we're copying whole cities or whole malls or airports and universities and stuff. But we're also going to be developing tools where regular users can go and use pretty much any off-the-shelf 3D tool and create their own worlds, their own environments, their own buildings, whatever, and then they will be able to link that to the system. So overall, we have like a core that people will be able to add worlds and places and even other platforms too, because we're kind of positioning our platform, Omniscape, to be like the one in the middle that connects everybody and everything together. So it's a little bit of both. So we work with a couple of different partners, one of which is Aerometrics in Australia, and they do some of the initial 3D scanning using LiDAR and some other sort of devices, and that gives us these really super high definition and very accurate scans, and then we take that, we process it, clean it up, and ultimately we get it into some of the 3D engines, like the Unreal 5 engine, which really allows us to deploy a lot of really super high-end and sophisticated lighting and shading and rendering and weather effects and all that. So it allows us to kind of get to the point where it's almost photorealistic and accurate down to 2 or 3 centimeters. And the game industry has a lot of problems with people hacking games and duping items. So in the process of trying to figure out how do we solve this, how do we fix that so we can be secure, we started looking at blockchain, and I was like, oh my gosh, blockchain can actually fix it, because now I know where this object came from. I can verify that it's actually equal to this other thing, or even in a pure data visualization sense. If I'm getting data from an IoT device somewhere, I need to know that it's the accurate data, and I also need to be able to look at its history and say, okay, well, I can look back and I look forward, and I know that it's real, it's authentic, it's genuine, and there's some good data integrity there. And you really can't do that without blockchain. So bringing blockchain into the mix solves a couple of these different problems, which means that the metaverse that we're building, the applications, the data visualizations, these are all things that are trusted, secure, and you're just empowered now. So once we figured that out, like, okay, well, all the light bulbs have gone off, then it was, which blockchain do we use? Which protocol do we use? So we started our little journey. We did a lot of technical assessments as well as some business assessments, and I was introduced to BSV I think maybe 2 years ago now, and we were just blown away. It's like it hit all the check boxes. It's already done. It's ready to go. It's fast. It's scalable. It's good big data blocks, and transaction fees were just almost negligible. So it was a simple business decision. I mean, this works, it's ready, and it can handle the global scale of what we want to do. I mean, if I needed to turn on 1 million IoT devices, each pinging out an update every 5 seconds, okay, no big deal. Let's make it happen. So yeah, I think blockchain is fundamental and key to doing any kind of global scale metaverse anything, and the only one that can actually handle that is BSV. Because of how we're structuring this, we're giving somebody an opportunity in a completely different country to have access to a job opportunity or the ability to meet new people or learn a new language or experience some culture without having to actually go somewhere or fly somewhere. No special hardware, no visas. It just opens things up and makes it more accessible, compared to something like these social VR worlds. I'm just going to go and hang out in my castle and do whatever, right? But tying it to the real world and looking at ways to, how do we make it easy for people to connect and collaborate and make money? And that just kind of, flourishes from there and starts getting lectured.
Hi, I'm Becky Liggero. I am the lead gaming reporter for CoinGeek.com. So CoinGeek TV is a feature that we have during the conference. It's actually a live stream. It happens during the lunchtime and it happens at the end of the conference. So we have two presenters that are responsible for this particular feature. The feature that I'm responsible for is called CoinGeek Backstage. And the CoinGeek Backstage interviews are performed with key speakers and VIP attendees and people that have worked to put this conference together, such as Calvin Ayre himself, to do quick, high-energy interviews that emphasize the content that they are covering here at the conference. So I've been attending conferences religiously, monthly, since I'd say 2005 across all different industries. The conferences that this company puts on are like a full-on TV production, starting with having makeup done for speakers before they go on stage, having roving cameras filming for the live stream, which is just a different live stream than you'd ever see from any event. It could be TV quality for sure. Everything is done with the finest details and touches. So it is just a pleasure to be here and experience that, because it's really different than anything else you would ever possibly see. Speakers are like VIPs. It's amazing. This is where things really excite me. I love talking to exciting people. This conference is full of bright minds, leaders, exciting people. So this is what I love. My takeaway would be that there are entrepreneurs here that have actually started using the technology, and now they're here reporting numbers, they're reporting wins, they're reporting next steps, they're reporting things that are actually happening or happened. And I think in previous events, people were talking about, their grand dream or something that they are hoping to do, they're planning to do soon, someday. And now it's actually happening. So we have, the movement has started. And so now we're hearing about great success stories. And so there are people here in the audience that are like, you know what? Let's do a partnership. Let's get going right now. So this is the first time I've actually seen that from all of the events that we've had. Well, so Dubai is a hub for blockchain technology, and everybody here, including the government, and actually just the Middle East in general, they're really, really focused on future technology. I was actually in Saudi Arabia a few months ago, and they're talking about 2030, and they really, really want to take advantage of the latest tech out there. Of course, blockchain is the top of the list. So I find that the governments and people in very high positions here are super anxious and excited to learn about blockchain. So just this area in general is really keen on the topic. So I think that's a little bit different than other parts of the world that might be a bit more focused on the flavor of the day or of the week, making millions over buying and holding Bitcoin or NFTs or whatever. Here they're looking more for powering governments and smart cities and IPv6 and this sort of thing. So it's more at a higher level, I'd say. Okay, so I am absolutely not a technical person at all. And it actually works to my favor for our ecosystem, because one of my favorite phrases for my interviewees and for people I talk to about blockchain is, if I can do it, you can do it. So if I can play around with Handcash Wallet and I can start using this tech, that means you can do it. I do not hold any NFTs at the moment. I think a lot of the NFT buzz is a lot of hype. I think that my focus is more on NFTs for utility versus owning NFTs and hoping that they become more valuable or selling them. Not to say that there isn't value in that, it's just not my thing. So my focus with NFTs is helping people understand you could use them for maybe movie tickets or football stadium tickets, or for a piece of music or something like that. But I'll get there.
My name is Justin Ihnken. I am the CEO and co-founder of Quantum Labs. So Quantum Labs is an analytical laboratory testing platform. So we own and operate laboratories within the pharmaceutical testing space for quality control, product development, formulation, more or less taking products from ideation within academia, actual research, all the way through production, clinical trials, and ultimately the end user administration. So one of the things that we do, or our main focus, is ensuring the data or ensuring the underlying products are in fact what they are being claimed to be. We're in the process of really scaling now globally and bringing back transparency to pharmaceuticals. So we don't make or sell the products, but we support the underlying creation and ultimately development. When you think about this, the problem that we're solving, you kind of have to zoom out even further. And what you realize is that today's modern medicine, so modern day pharmaceuticals have advanced at such a steep curve that the laboratories that truly support the integrity, safety, transparency of those drugs has not changed in roughly 50 years. Some of the most brilliant people in the world are making medical breakthroughs every day. Right? That's a fact. I mean, you see it all the time. But you wonder who's the one that's gauging the safety of these products or ensuring that they are what they say they are, and they're not just at a small scale making a difference, but at a large scale. I think BSV really does a good job, or the various elements, whether it's blockchain size, whether it's transactions, whether it's utilizations. I think we're still a few years away from having other chains that you could argue blockchain applications that could be used. But we found that the BSV chain actually gives the most insight simply because it is the most kind of versatile in today's world for new applications. So a lot of our data is being created on the platforms that the machines run on. And we have 5 or 6 different softwares that we're running at all times. But it's then what happens at the end of that. So our entire systems need to be completely validated and qualified in order for us to generate data that can be used in drug manufacturing. The second you start tempering with that data in a way that's different than how it was designed to be, you're then no longer qualified. So from our point of view, everything we do with the data is post-creation. Right. And I think that the easiest integrations, those APIs that actually can handle the data post-creation, BSV just had the most flexibility for us. You want to have a laboratory that's working with massive amounts of varied data across a wider spectrum. And that data should be the ownership of the customers. But ultimately, it's not the data ownership, but the data transparency. Understanding how did you arrive at my results? Do the results you gave me actually match up with the data that was created? That needs to be on the blockchain, because right now it's nowhere. The core issue is that modern medicine has a far advanced past quality control lab since, say, 1960s. We are making incredible waves. We recently were put on Forbes 30 under 30 list for really changing the modern landscape of pharmaceuticals. It's honoring. It really is something that's awesome to be a part of. And I think that, my co-founder and I sit back every day and say, wow, this is way bigger than we ever thought it would be, but we're equipped for the journey, and we're equipped to take on that challenge.
Tyler Farnsworth, Chief Marketing Officer, Built by Gamers. Gamers are everyone. 3.2 billion people worldwide are gamers. We are a collective of esports teams, so we have professional players who play video games. And in the way we have it today, they're so much closer. So think about if you could interact with your favorite basketball player, and he would look behind and say, hey, what's up? And that's how you can do it on Twitch. You can type in, and often they'll read the chat, or you can do a tip or something like that, or follow or subscribe, and they'll shout out your name. Hey, Tyler, thanks again. And this closeness exists that you just don't see when you're watching Tiger Woods play golf over the TV. So you can interact like you can on any sort of social network where you're having likes, comments, shares, these sorts of things. But the live streaming platforms are really unique. So like Twitch or YouTube Live, where while it's live, you can go on, you can have certain comments, you can make certain things come up on screen. The interactivity, the closeness is quite large. So it's not all that dissimilar from a sports team in general. So the way our revenue model works is almost identical to a sports team, with sponsorships and ticket sales and merchandise sales and TV rights, although it looks a little bit different in esports. So this fandom, I don't know if it's a fan club in the same way, but yes, you're part of this guild, if you will, this unified group of people that are all supporting the same cause. Our core audience right now, we see in that 15 to 35-year-old range. But it's male, it's female, it's worldwide. And these are people who love the games that we play in, love gaming culture, love interacting with our personalities. The traditional entertainment world can't just expect to live in the way that they once were with this new community that is spending hours a day consuming primetime content on Twitch and not on CNN and not on ESPN and not going to the cinema. So yeah, there's a lot that the entertainment media ecosystem needs to pay attention to here. This is the experience here at the BSV conference in Dubai has been outstanding. This country is so focused on innovation. It's evident as soon as you walk out the door. And the amount of people who are focusing on building on BSV, building here in blockchain, some of the sharpest minds I've interacted with in my entire career. And the amount of entrepreneurship, the amount of innovation, the amount of great ideas that are impacting nearly every sector of our economy, of our worldwide economy, are present here. We are launching, and really why we're here at this conference, is we have prepared a fan engagement platform that is built on blockchain. And it allows people to be rewarded for spending time inside our ecosystem. So imagine if you could get rewarded for all the time you spend watching your favorite sports team. Every time you went to a game, or every time you watched a game on TV, or when you bought a t-shirt, or every time you wore your t-shirt out. Imagine if there were rewards coming into an ecosystem or a wallet that you controlled, and you could then redeem those rewards. That's what we've built here on blockchain. And we feel like it's a really key differentiator. We explored a lot of different blockchains, and BSV was not the first one we navigated toward, but we identified that it solved problems we couldn't solve otherwise. The community is so strong and so big that we found a home here on the BSV blockchain.
Hi, Charles Symons, Director of Ideation at Buzzmint. We are a SaaS-based platform, so we enable brands, well, enterprises, or anybody for that matter actually, with the requirement for delivering NFT or token projects within their own digital infrastructure, as opposed to sending their audience to an external NFT marketplace. I think our ideal customers are probably those with ambitions that go beyond the boundaries of simply flipping an NFT as a digital asset or token. Yeah. And I had a call from a friend of mine I'd done a lot of business with, and he said, I'm holding this event tonight in the city, and there's this really interesting Aussie guy who's fascinating and a bit crazy, and apparently he's the founder of Bitcoin, and you should maybe come along to it. Right? So I said, okay. So I moseyed on down in the evening and then went in. There was lots of interesting people there. It was all a bit crazy. It was for the launch of this thing called the Satoshi Block Dojo, which is a tech accelerator. And I just started chatting to an Australian guy who was dressed very smartly, and I couldn't understand why everybody maybe was looking at me thinking I was monopolising his time. But of course, I had no idea he was Dr. Craig Wright. And as he was, I asked him to explain what BSV was, and as he was explaining it, it was a light bulb moment that actually the solutions that BSV has to offer were solutions to a direct problem I just encountered with a very significant sector of the publishing industry. I started a company the next day. We were one of the first companies to come into the dojo. Cannot speak highly enough in terms of what they're doing. So there's the cohort 2's going through at the moment. Fantastic levels of expert advice, ease the pain of setting up a company, and their mentoring program in terms of bringing business expertise, not just within blockchain and BSV, but traditional business, people who've been there several times and been hugely successful. This certainly was the highlight of, and what we got out of it as business owners with a few grey hairs or no hair at all. That was the massive benefit to us. The Renwell project, pretty straightforward. The current owner of the painting is also the owner of several other pieces of fine art, in fact several hundred other pieces of fine art, which they trade on a continual basis. And we're building out a collaborative project for a white label version of Buzzmint, which will become Art One Bid. And that will achieve two things. So it will enable further investment into the fine art market and oil the process, if you will, and make it easier in terms of a transactional point of view, in terms of buying fine art. He happened to have a Renoir which he was selling, and it's a beautiful painting. And I just said, why don't we just come to France and why don't we scan it and make a high quality image? And he turned around and he said, well, what are you going to do with it? I said, well, we could actually help promote Art One Bid, to offer it in some capacity at the Blockchain Conference in Dubai, which is where we are now, of course. And he said, well, why don't you offer the painting? And what we'll do is we'll reinvest some of the profits back into development of Art One Bid and other BSV related projects. So we're actually producing two different tokens. So one is contains the legal documents of ownership and provenance and so on, which will be minted, and that will be a token of ownership, intrinsically and immutably connected to the actual physical painting. And the other one is a separate NFT. So it is literally the first Renoir ever to be made into a digital NFT on the BSV blockchain.
Tony Mugavero, CEO, Rad.
Brooklyn Earick, CMO, Rad.
Rad is a streaming platform for Web3, and we are a marketplace between creators and fans to connect directly by fans buying content directly from the creators and using blockchain essentially to make that all more efficient.
Yeah, we're really, trying to give control back to the content creators. Let them set their own terms. If you go to a YouTube or some of these other platforms, there's high platform fees. You pretty much have to do what they say. We give them, in smart contracts, is very open and transparent, and you set your terms however you want them.
The streaming wars created, you see this like social on one end and the big streamers on the other end, and that left out tens of thousands of studios and individual creators who are professionals, and so by them closing their doors, they can extract more value from their content, but they've now left tens of thousands of creators out in the cold who now no longer have a home to go to. So YouTube squeezed them out and Netflix squeezed them out, so where can they go? That's where we're positioning ourselves.
Yeah, we promoted adoption and got our 1 million users by going heavy on social media, specifically Twitter and Discord, where the NFT and crypto community tends to hang out. We have some really compelling tools and a great team. So we're very transparent, which is pretty rare in the NFT and crypto space. You have a lot of anon accounts that aren't out there with no history in business in general, and we've been around for a while, sold companies previously, come and speak at things like this, and I feel like that's been really big in building trust throughout the community that's coming to us, and recognizing that we have great tools now, and we're also building towards the future.
If you think about things in a Web3 way and look at this new paradigm of giving creators more control and giving fans direct connection, it gets harder for companies like Netflix and Disney, who are aggressively trying to put those things into a silo. Whereas in the NFT space, you have NFT projects that drop and the content gets, you might own the right to your actual NFT, and you can put that on, you can make a cartoon out of it, you can make your own, you could buy 3 NFTs and make your own cartoon with them because you own the rights to those characters. So the IP ownership of this space goes entirely counter to organizations that they have to survive by owning all the IP. And it fundamentally disrupts their business and makes it nearly impossible for them to engage in. But to do it in an authentic way where the community owns the IP and owns the platform and they all win together will be really difficult for these 10, 20-year platforms to actually switch their model into this new way of thinking. That gives us some room to run.